Hello everyone and welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. Today's video, we're going to tackle probably my second most frequently asked question is what do we do when we have problems on both claws? And that's exactly what we've got going on today. We've got an ulceration starting on this lateral claw, and on the medial claw, we've got a white line issue, which means we can't block this foot. So what are we going to do? Now, the primary purpose of applying a block is to concentrate the weight on that particular claw by putting that block on it. Take the weight off the injured claw, put it on that one. Now, in this case, we've got two claws with problems, so we don't want to isolate weight or transfer weight to any particular claw. We want that weight distributed between the two claws, so that's why we're not going to use a block. Now, some have suggested, why not use a horseshoe block to avoid the particular areas of those claws that have the problem? Why wouldn't that work? We use these diagrams to help explain that. So many of the problems we see manifested on the sole of the cow's foot are related to this bone right here, the pedal bone. And more importantly, the downward movement of that pedal bone that causes problems with the corium. You can see here I've got that illustrated. It pushes down onto the corium, and that's when we see those ulcerations in the bottom of the foot. We've got this area here. This is called the digital cushion, and this is what protects the corium from that downward movement of that pedal bone. So by taking a block and putting it on the outside of the claws to help alleviate pressure from the inner part of the claw, that's not necessarily going to happen because the problem is occurring from the downward movement inside the foot. So by doing that, by isolating weight to that outside edge, is not necessarily going to change anything. The only time I would use that type of block is if we had some type of protrusion in the sole and I needed to give that an extra relief as far as height-wise to protect that area. But in this case, I'm able to do that just with modeling. So adding a block is not going to serve any additional function for this particular foot because I'm able to accomplish that relief that I need just by the way that I trim this foot. Now, unlike our feet where the weight actually transfers straight through the bottom of our foot to the ground, it's not exactly how that works with a cow. With a cow, that pedal bone on the inside of the foot is actually attached to the outside wall of that claw inside the foot, and the weight then is transferred down to the pedal bone and then out to that outside wall and then to the ground. So when we have breakdowns with that attachment or with that weight transfer system, that's when we end up with problems happening to the corium because it's not working the way that it should. So, like I said before, the blocking issue, that weight is already being transferred to that outside edge, or it should be. So the only real relief we need to provide here is through the use of this modeling just to prevent, I should say, the ground contact from these particular areas. We'll zoom in here and you'll be able to see the modeling I've done. You can see the problem area on this claw, and you can see there the relief that I've given by modeling this area out. There's no ground contact there. And if we take a look to the side, you can see where the weight's going to be still distributed on this claw where it's supposed to be through that ground contact, but nothing in those particular areas will make contact with the ground, causing any ground irritation. It may be hard to visualize, but think of it this way: changing the sole may not necessarily change the way the pressures are applied inside the claw, which is where the problems are happening. We'll zoom in here. You can see exactly where the problems are on this claw. That's the initial source right there. It's obvious on the other claw where that is. I need to remove some horn around here, but I want to leave the weight on this outside edge. That's where that weight has been transferred. And like I said, it's not that we're trying to transfer weight there. The weight is already there. I'm just using this modeling to prevent any ground force pressure on those particular areas. Now, you might be saying to yourself, is this not going to be then uncomfortable for her to walk because she's got problems on both claws? And of course it is. But luckily, this is a rare condition. We rarely see any instances where we have problems on both claws because a lot of times we catch them before that, when that first problem is happening. She'll start to show some discomfort then, and we're able to solve these problems before they end up causing problems on the other claw. But Wait till the end of the video and we'll show you exactly what we do to try to make this a little more comfortable for cows when it does happen. Now that we've got that foot all wrapped up, we can get this foot put down and we'll let her go. And as I mentioned, there's things we can do to try to make this more comfortable for the cows when it does happen. And the thing that I've found that works the best is to have those cows moved to an area of real soft bedding, right? Where they can lay down, rest. It's nice and soft and loose on their feet. They're not putting a lot of pressure on particular areas of the foot. That ground kind of takes up some of that shock, so it's not applied to that claw. And they can rest and recover there. Or, in this girl's case, she's about to go dry, and she's going to go out to pasture to recover there.